Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage, where today we're going to go through my M140 and what it's been like to own over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, and talk about what the car's like in itself. I hope you enjoy the video, so without further ado, let's crack on. Okay, so all systems go button, off we go. Now what I will point out really quickly is this car's got a res delete, so it might be a little bit noisier than the norm, but otherwise should be no to little difference. So let's go. So today we're going to talk about the M140 and see what, well in essence what I think of the car and what it's been like to own over the last 18 months stroke nearly 2 years. I want to cover a few bases today. I'll try not to make the video drag on, but I want to cover what the car's like as a unit, as the M140. It may suit you, it may not. I want to talk about what it's been like to own for me, and at the same time I want to talk about what how it stacks up against its compares really. So anyway, let's address the car for what it is. So it's a 2019 model, this one. Covered just over 53,000 miles. The Shadow Edition gives you some nice sort of extra trinkets above the base spec model. On the outside it gives you gloss black wheels, it gives you gloss black kidney grills, it gives you the more smoked front and rear lights. Inside it gives you the black panel display and the Harman Kardon audio, which is a really nice feature. It was paramount to me that it was a Shadow Edition, the one I bought, so few things to note that are different there. Outside you'll notice this car is very slightly different from standard. It's got a rear diffuser, factory end performance, side decals and side skirts. That's about it, and the calipers are yellow. Wasn't me, but they're not offensive. To look at then, this car, the M140i. Now hatchbacks, I'm not generally a massive fan of hatchbacks, but as far as hatchbacks go, I think it's quite a good looking car. I actually prefer the 5 over the 3-door. Maybe you'll disagree, they come in both. I think it's got quite a nice stance, the 140. And I think with the additional bits that have been added to this one, it does set it apart, because in standard trim, I can't lie, the M140 does look very subtle. You could easily mistake it driving past as, well, to be quite frank, a 116D. There isn't much that sets them off, if anything, apart from when you get round the back, those twin exits there. Coming on to the inside, now this is always a point of controversy for me. BMW interiors are often gauged as boring and plain. I can't disagree in every single sense of that statement, because they are very functional. They're not the most exciting interiors in the BMW, but what I do find is that cars that do boast those sort of digital dashes and the touchscreen panels and all that sort of stuff, in terms of everyday functionality, it's really difficult to use. What I like about a car is, and BMW do this really well in particular, you can jump in it within a few minutes, and without having to memorize the owner's manual, you can really easily familiarize yourself with the car and where all the features and functions are. I think BMW style the interior just fine. This one's got a nice interior above base spec M140, so it's got the brushed aluminium finish with the piano black surrounds, which I think is one of the nicer finishes. It's got the professional media system, so the widescreen nav here. But I think the way BMW have designed it, everything's ever so easy to find and use, and I'm a big fan of buttons. I love buttons, absolutely love buttons. They're so easy. It makes driving the car far less distracting when trying to find something. So if I want the heated seat, quick glance, so it's quite obviously there, just press the button. If I want to up the fan speed, it's there. If I want to adjust the temperature, it's here. If I want to change something on the iDrive, it's only a small reach away. In fact, nothing's uncomfortable to use in this car. Even the steering wheel buttons, they've been designed so well by BMW that you don't even have to remove your hands from 9 and 3. You've just got to move your thumbs and everything's there. The voice control, the radio controls and the cruise, really easy. The window controls are just to my right, really easy. So I do thank BMW for their functional design, and I do. Is it the prettiest interior in the world? No. Is it the ugliest? No. But does it work? Yes. It's very easy to use day to day. Now, I'm also a big fan of the driver's orientated part of the interior. I think BMW design a very good steering wheel. I genuinely do. They're sturdy, they feel good, nice and comfy to hold, good size, and the cluster I think they designed really, really well on the M140 with the black panel display. I like that it's all black in the background. It's a nice, obvious sort of font and styling that they use for the dials and gauges, and I love the little M140 digital emblem in the bottom right hand corner there. Let's talk about some of the more interesting stuff. What's it like to drive? Well, it's a really, really nice car to drive, and that is because of that absolutely phenomenal B58 engine that you've got up front. So this car is powered by a 3-litre turbocharged straight 6 engine that kicks out about 335 horsepower and an absolute bundle of torque, mated with the ZF 8-speed gearbox, which is an option. It comes standard with a 6-speed manual, although there isn't many of those about. That paired with this ZF 8-speed gearbox makes for an awesomely pleasurable driving experience. I will say off the bat, the ZF box, the auto box, obviously isn't as engaging as the manual. It's really good fun to drive in the manual, but for day to day, what I wanted the car for, the auto gearbox is so good. It's so easy to drive this car. You can poodle it around town at low speeds. The gearbox is smooth, it's not jerky or slippy. When you change gear, it is just seamless. It's smooth, swift, and you don't even feel it doing it. The engine that it has, this M140, I do think is the showstopper. It is a sublime engine, awesomely powerful. There's loads of torque, so you don't even get the faintest hint of turbo lag from this car. The power comes in circa 2,000 revs. You can start using this car, which is really, really refreshing, not like turbo cars of old. And the engine's smooth, it's quiet, it's responsive. It just makes it really, really easy to drive day to day. And when you want to open it up, God, all you've got to do is plant your right foot, wait for the kick down. Jesus. It is absolutely baffling how fast this car is. I think they're really, really impressive. It feels like it's more than 335 horsepower the way this car delivers the power. It's so almost instantaneous. It really is. Like I said, you don't have to kick down a load of gears. It just gets up and goes like a rocket ship, this thing. You can use the paddles if you want to play a bit. God, it's not lazy at all. And then when you're done playing about, it's an everyday 1 Series again. You wouldn't know that you weren't in a 120i cruising around, except from when you ask it to deliver you that power, and it does. It absolutely chucks it at you. Now while we've come to a stop, I'll quickly cover what it's like to run this car. So being an M Lite and not an M car, you don't get stung with any sort of M tax really. It does have slightly bigger componentry with regards to the brakes and things like that. The 340mm discs, so they are a big old set of discs. I've just done the discs and pads on this on the front, and it was about £500 depending where you get it done. That's for Brembo discs and Brembo pads. Servicing's anywhere from a couple £100 upwards, but even if you had to do plugs and things like that, I don't think you'll break the £500-600 mark, depending where you get it done. So they're really, really fair to service. This thing doesn't use a drop of oil, and in the 2 years nearly that I've had it, it's not had one single problem. Not one single problem. Such a good car. Really, really rate it. Even though it's the entry level into the BMW range, the 1 Series still gives you a feedback that it's a good quality car. Now this car is a proper Jekyll and Hyde. As I said, day to day driving it. If you didn't know you had that B58 under you could quite easily drive it through the town day to day, pottering about with not a care in the world. It's effortless, absolutely effortless to drive. But then at the flick of a switch, yeah, whoa, it's an animal. Absolute animal. And we're still in comfort. Jesus me. The straight line capabilities of this car is absolutely unbelievable. It just doesn't want to stop. It feels like it would go round and round and round the clock until the end of time. Unbelievable. Unbelievable power from this car. Now I think I've praised the car enough. I can't speak highly enough about the M140 as a package and what you get, but there are some drawbacks to the M140, 100% obviously. There's always going to be a trade-off between being able to drive the car day to day and then having an engaging, spirited drive on the twisties. Some cars do it better than others, and some cars definitely do it better than the M140. It is such a capable car in a straight line, but for me that is where the excitement stops. If you get it on an engaging little twisty like we're on at the minute, even on the paddles, there's a little delay in the change there, the responsiveness is fine. Just waiting for it to change a little bit too long for me really. And also, it's not the most confidence-inspiring car to push hard. The back end does go ever so light. You do feel like you're becoming detached from the chassis almost really when you're pushing this car. It is quite unsettling at times. It's sort of like you're playing charades with it. It's a guessing game as to what it wants you to do. Whereas when you're in an M car or something much more focused like a Type R or something, the car's very engaging with you. The feedback from the car is, a little bit of steering input here, a little bit on or off the accelerator here. You know, you can feel the car moving in all the different corners. You don't get that from the M140i. It's very obvious that it's a road car with a big engine, and the suspension is not good. Day to day, it's not treacherous, but it is bouncy. I do think it's a poor show from BMW. I do think for a suspension like that's got poor rebound and damping, I would expect it to be far more capable on an engaging road, but it's not. Like I say, don't get me wrong, it doesn't ruin my day-to-day experience of the car, but every now and then I find myself driving across the road and I'm thinking, God, it's like I'm on a little bit of a space hopper. But I think for this car to be exciting and engaging on the twisty, some work definitely has to be done, absolutely has to be done. I've not had the pleasure of trying this car with a limited slip diff, but I've been told it absolutely transforms the car. So if you want more engagement and security when you're pushing the car at speeds and through the lanes and things like that, a limited slip diff is something that maybe you'll have to do, but that comes with a price tag of circa £1,500. A rear handling pack is something that you could buy as well, which is available. I think that's about 500 or 600 quid, and it tightens up the rear end, diff bushes and arm bushes and so on. But you do need to spend some money to make it a proper, interesting drive on the twisty roads. For me, so I don't want to beat the car up all day about that. For me, I knew that was the drawback with these cars, but it's a day-to-day car that could flip between a 1 Series by day and just a beast where I can have some fun with every now and then. It does do that really quite well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the least satisfying car to throw around in the corners and things, but it does give you a bit of lean. The steering doesn't feel ever so direct. Is it awful? No. Is it great? No. But you have to understand that that's what the M140 is before you jump into buying one, I think. I would suggest with some suspension work, a limited slip diff and tightening that rear end up, it could serve both purposes really, really well. It's an easy day-to-day driver and a fun B-road car. But in standard trim, it does not fulfill that role at all. But when you want the power, overtaking, easy. You probably noticed there we had a little bit of a slip and I wasn't even all the way around the revs. That's definitely one thing you've got to consider, and I think probably the LSD will sort that out, but they are twitchy. You have to respect what you've got. You have to respect the fact you've got rear wheel drive, not the best chassis and suspension setup, and 335 horsepower and a load of torque. Because if you just want to twist and go and nail it everywhere, point and squirt, you are going to catch yourself out in this car. Thankfully the traction system is very strong on these cars, but if you're being a bit of a hooligan in Sport Plus, or the traction's off and you don't respect what you've got or calculate what you're doing, you will absolutely upset yourself. Absolutely. So let's talk about price and compares then. I bought this car for £22,000 and I got a fantastic deal on it. In today's market, this car sits at around 19-20, depending where you buy one from, privately or from a garage. I think that's a load of car for the money. Just to recap, it's 2019, 54,000 miles, call it. What a load of car for the money. When you compare it against its compares, I guess what would you pick? Golf R, Audi S3, A45. Really hard to compare because they all do different things. I think of all the cars I've just mentioned, the BMW is the much better drive. It's the much better driver's car than the rest of them. For not just the fact that I think it feels better quality and everything, and it does drive more, it feels more solid to drive, feels like it's built better. The engine is absolutely superior to all of those aforementioned. And they're on, in terms of price point, is competitive against the others as well. It is. I was only looking the other day, and the Audis are more money, the Mercedes are more money, and I just don't think that the Golf and all the others give you as engaging a drive or as good a feel from the car. They're not as impressive underfoot, and they're not. That's my opinion. Would something like a Golf R and Audi S3 outrun this car on a greasy day? 100%. 100%. You'd be stuck figuring out which way you were pointing while the Audi was up the road, round the corner and out of sight. Simple as that. But the trade-off is they're not as fun to drive. And I've got to say, I don't know what it is with the VAG cars with that when you change gear. Flipping heck. Sort it out. So if you want to tilt the excuse me, if you want to tilt the scales the other way, you look at cars that are much more engaging to drive or more track focused, you'll be looking at things like Civic Type R, which, or the Renault Sport for example, i30N, loads more engaging on it, much more capable on a track, loads more engaging on the twisties, but much harder to live with day to day. I've had plenty of experience with the Type R. In day to day, those cars are so stiff. Jesus, they're so stiff. You want to drive one with a hangover, it's awful. Awful. And there's the trade-off. So you've got to make your mind up. You make your mind up. You decide what suits you best. So in summary, if you're looking for a car that fulfills the same purpose that I wanted the car to fulfill, that's solid, reliable, good quality, drives well, fast, effortless to drive day to day, that's very user friendly, the M140i ticks all those boxes really, really well. The trade-offs are, it's not very engaging to drive on the twisties, and it's unsettling at speeds. But you've got to decide whether or not that means it's the right car for you or not. They do different things than its compares, as mentioned previous. But the things this car does well, to me, outweighs what it doesn't do so well. Because if you wanted that as a base car to fix a few bits to get it to be more engaging, you can get an XHP software map for the gearbox, which transforms it into more like a DCT feel. You can get different coilovers, limited slip diff, and tighten up the rear end. Yes, you're piling money into the car that you're not going to see back, but again, you've got to make the choice as to whether or not that's for you or not. And you might be thinking, well, by the time we've added a limited slip diff, Craig, and added £1,000 worth of coilovers and done a rear handling pack and this, that and the other, I bought an M140 that I'm 4 or 5 grand in the hole on. Oh, good tyres, you need good tyres. 4 or 5 grand in the whole lot. Why didn't I just buy an M2 to start with? Oh, good question. Why didn't you? There's plenty of things to consider as to why you might not be buying an M2. There's a few things I had to consider, which is why I didn't buy an M2. I wanted 5 doors. I wanted a hatchback. I wanted something that was going to be fairly reasonable to run. And I wanted something that was fairly sensible on insurance. And there's definitely a gap there between the two cars. 100%. 100%. Money to object, would I have the M2 over the M140 every day of the week? If I didn't have to consider a few things, I certainly would. Budget was also one at the time, and modding this car isn't really anything that I'm concerned about. I'm leaving it as it is. So I hope that's given you enough to think about. Hopefully not too much to think about, but hopefully it's a fair representation of the M140 in my ownership experience with it. Can't speak highly enough for the car. Brilliant car, really rate it. And based on the video and other things you may have learned, if it's the car for you, I promise you won't be disappointed. Absolutely not. And I think that's probably the best place to end this video. So I'll say thank you ever so much as usual if you're watching. Typically, and as always, we welcome your comments, positive or negative. Let us know what we did well. Let us know what you'd like to see us do better. Your feedback is always welcomed on this channel. And if you want to see more, then subscribe. We've got some really interesting things coming. Greg's M2's video is already live. We've got the M140 versus the M2 to come out soon. The RS6 video is coming out soon. And we've got a Silverstone edition E46 M3 video coming soon as well. Really looking forward to doing that. I can't wait to get back behind the wheel of an E46 M3. It's going to be emotional, I'm telling you. But really looking forward to that. So anyway, for now, I'll say thanks again. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye. Jesus, it's so fast. Well, good job BMW, good job.